While medical debt is an undeniable problem to the families burdened by it, the sheer size of the problem nationally is not something that we talk about too much. And joining us now to help do that is Jerry Ashton, co-founder of RIP Medical Debt. Jerry, welcome to the show.
I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you.
We're glad to have you here to help break down this problem. So before we dive into the numbers, your organization, what are they about?
Well, if you take a look at a book that we just published called End Medical Debt, if you notice, there's $1 trillion worth of unpaid medical debt right now hanging on the backs and minds of our fellow Americans. So 1 trillion is a good place to start.
That is a gigantic number, obviously, yeah. and I'm assuming that veterans probably make up quite a bit of that number. Can you just describe for people who might be blessedly free of that sort of debt, having these gigantic sums of medical debt, what sort of effects does that have on individuals and families?
Well, you've got kind of two questions there. One is, what about veterans? And then what about the rest of us? And what does it really mean? When we first, I'm a Navy veteran myself. I was a Navy photojournalist. And my job at that time was to introduce the work that Navy people did around the world. Today, I end up finding out that my fellow veterans for many, many years and many more years to come are actually burdened by unpaid and unpayable medical debt by the VA.
Yeah.
And this is what's called emergent care. Emergent care is emergency services such as showing up at a local hospital because you have a heart problem, or you're taken by an ambulance, and instead of the ambulance taking you to the VA, they take you to a hospital, and guess who has to pay that hospital bill?
Yeah.
There's $6 billion worth of medical debt owed by veterans right now.
People who put their lives on the line.
Exactly, after years of service, possibly incurring some of these medical problems from the service to their country. And so I did not serve. And so perhaps people like me might believe, well, aren't they all, they're taken care of? They've got something like the VA. And so I assume to some extent, your organization needs to not just try to solve the problem, but educate people about the fact that for some of these communities, they're not being fully taken care of by the government.
Well, this is so important, the word education. Most of us are blissfully, or I should say unblissfully, aware of the chain of pain that is caused by what we call a healthcare system here in America. When you consider that we're the only industrial nation that does not take care of its citizens, when you realize that healthcare for all is really healthcare for those who can afford it, and devil catch the hindmost. So we have a tattered system. We have a system of for-profit, which runs from insurance companies, through hospitals, through pharmacy, to anybody who touches a patient on their journey, hopefully back to health. And it's all caused by a system which has to be changed. So speaking of veterans, my title for the chapter on veterans was called No Thank You for Your Service.
Wow.
Yeah. So let's talk about the book then. Let's try to figure out how this problem could actually be solved. Obviously, you've got multiple perspectives there, experts coming from different points of view. What are some of the policies that you think the government could pursue that would be most likely to make an appreciable difference in dealing with this debt?
Well, one thing is stop doing what we're doing. That's a pretty good start.
That's true for everything, I think.
So we're just digging the hole deeper, and to think that our legislators and our congressmen and women are actually working for us as opposed to lobbyists is part of the disillusionment I'd like to bring to everybody. Wake up. We need to wake up to the fact that there's a real problem out there. It's not going to be fixed by jury rigging the present system that we have. So it's really going to take a lot of brave people. In our book, there are three authors. There's myself, Jerry Ashton. There's Craig Antico, my partner in the debt collection industry. And there's Robert Goff, who is the former executive director of the NYU Physicians Association. All three of us have a different point of view about healthcare and how it should be delivered and how it should be paid for. But all three of us agree on this thing, the thing I would like to have all of your listeners agree to and your viewing audience. We've got to stop putting people in debt because they got sick or injured.
Yeah.
Jerry, I have a question because I do know the VA does offer the medical care hardship program. And when looking into this, it seems there are a lot of problems with that too. I want you to talk about that a little if you could, because forgiven debt, is it true like that could then be counted as income on taxes for these vets, which then creates another problem if you already can't afford it to begin with?
Good question. Here's how this works. As a charity, we're a 501c3, ripmedicaldebt.org. And as a charity, we are allowed to be able to forgive someone's debt with no tax consequences to the recipient. Whereas if you were a hospital, or if you were a doctor, or if you were a debt buyer, you could not liberate that debt. You couldn't forgive it because you would be required, as a profitable organization, you would be required to file a 1099-C, which would put people in risk of being chased by the best bill collectors of all, and that's the IRS.
So I also want to mention, we're short on time, but I want to give credit to your organization that you have purchased and forgiven over $500 million in unpaid debt, which I can't believe it's taking me this far to the interview to acknowledge, because if I had done that, or 1/100th of that, that's how I would introduce myself when I meet someone. I'm Johnny Rowland, I've forgiven over $500 million of medical debt. So congratulations for your organization's success in that. And I definitely want to recommend to our audience that they take a look at the book, different perspectives on how we could possibly make a difference in this area. And so Jerry Ashton of RIP Medical Debt, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for watching this clip from the Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.